He is the truth.
My only truth is that I'll lie when I have to. Today I'm gonna talk about my very first girlfriend. She was deaf.
He's one of the smartest men to ever live.
Forward this video to a side chick and save a relationship.
He is Elon Musk's father.
Yep, that's my son.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dave.
So, today, the topic of hip-hop is rap more of a danger to the youth as opposed to good? Now, we know rap has been a staple in our community since forever. But the problem is when it start becoming violent. The problem is when it start beefs, and that eventually leads to young black men being in prisons for life. So today, guests, I wanted to bring them on because I wanted the Christian perspective. I wanted the Christian perspective of why rap is essentially bad for the youth and why it's killing them. Now, I'm not saying, rap music itself is a beast. I'm saying the words that's coming out, the hateful towards another brother, things of that sort. So, before we get to our guests, I would like to introduce you guys a new segment on this show called Things That Makes My Balls Itch. I have two segments. Things That Makes My Balls Itch is one of them, and at the end, I'll give you guys a conspiracy. Let's get straight to the first segment, and then I'm gonna interview the guests in regards to rap music.
Things that really makes Dave balls itch.
You know what really makes my balls itch? Marriages. Why are we still getting married? 50% of marriages ends in divorce. The fire's hot. Why do you keep burning yourself? Look, I get it. Marriage has been around for generations. Our parents got married. Our great-great-grandparents got married. It's a tradition. But understand, the more our society is progressing, the more we realize we have to adapt. In this case, marriage is not working. 50% of marriages ends in divorce. Maybe it's social media. Maybe it's because we're constantly getting stimulated with sex. Maybe that's the reason of the high amount of adultery. But the facts are the facts. It's not working. So how do we fix this? How do we fix marriage in general? Look, I came with a two-step plan. Number one, just stay girlfriend and boyfriend. Yes, I know. You want the benefits of the tax returns. You want the benefits of combining assets and purchasing something. Whatever the case may be, trust me, it's not worth losing half your stuff and paying alimony. Second, don't sign no papers. Why are you involving the government on something that's intimate? It will never work. Look, I'ma go, but I'ma leave you guys with this. I'm an atheist. The only marriage I've seen work are the truly devout Christians. The true ones. And that's only because they want to go to heaven. They want to play it safe. It works for them. That's the only marriages that I see work currently. And that's what really makes my balls itch.
Things that really makes Dave balls itch.
I hope you guys like that segment. Without further ado, the man of God, the legend, the myth, the writer, the talker, Ben 2. I don't have clapping sound, so pretend there's an audience clapping.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, I'm all about that, man. Hi everyone. Want to say hi to everyone. Also want to thank you, Dave, for inviting me to speak on this subject, which is very close to my heart. As you know, us as Black men in the Black community, we face so many things and so many obstacles. So, of course, any issues that affects the Black community, it touches a very soft place in my heart, especially as it concerns hip hop. Especially us young Black men. I mean, I know me growing up, that's something I've grew up listening on. So it's definitely a subject that I'm looking forward to discussing as we explore the relation between hip hop and violence and how it affects our youth. Both from a real world perspective and also from a biblical perspective as well too.
Perfect. So, Bentu, I had this conversation with a person that's an advocate rap listener, and one of the main things he was saying to me was there's a lot of violence in rock. There's a lot of sex in R&B. Why is Black rap music is being attacked? Why is that specific genre is the one being attacked? I'm curious to know what your opinion is.
And that's interesting. And I'd have to say that that is a very interesting statement made by the advocate, um, which is true. There are violence in rock and roll, as we see. You know, people who do heavy metal, heavy rock. A lot of times, the violence that's associated with that are people who are emo. Sometimes you have people in those rock concerts who cut themselves, who harm themselves, and so there's violence in that. And then you also have R&B, of course. You know, you got the Ushers, you got R. Kelly, you got all of these other young, all of these singers that promote a sexual and a promiscuous lifestyle. All of these genres have their own negativity in a way, but why is it that rap is being targeted, right, as violence?
Right.
I'll say here's the difference between rap music, right? You know what's interesting? There was a research that was done, and the research was done was saying that I believe it was as of 2021. It said one of the most genres, the most music that were downloaded by young people. Two genres came up top. It was rap. You know what came before rap?
What?
Was rock and roll. And they were saying that, and what researchers were saying was that these are the two genres that young people download the most because these are the two genres that promotes rebellion, right? Which is interesting. Rock and roll promotes rebellion, and also rap is a genre that promotes rebellion as well too. And by rebellion, they just mean not going by the rules, whatever it is. It's not necessarily rebellion against religion, but just rebellion in general, right? Think about rap music now. Now, some people say, why do rap music get hate a lot? Now, when you think about rock and roll, right, and the violence that happens in there, a lot of the times the violence that happens in rock and roll, it's not necessarily targeting, right, a specific group or a specific group of people. It just so happens that people who listen to rap end up being violent, but there's no target in the music in itself. You remember during the NWA time in California, around that time, rap music got a really bad rap because back in those days, they used to have music about rapping about killing cops and things like that. Matter of fact, there was actually an incident where cops would get into fights, you know, a lot with the brothers, you know, in the community, and where actually LAPD had an issue with rappers and things like that because of the music that it was targeting against police officers or whatnot. So what you're seeing is that with rap, right? Now here's another interesting thing. When there's violence in rock and roll, when was the last time you've heard two rock and roll artists go at it?
I haven't.
When was the last time? You haven't seen anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you've seen an R&B artist get into a physical fight or altercation or send death threats to another R&B artist? It doesn't happen that way.
It happened,
right?
but it
Usually,
doesn't. It happens, but it doesn't end up deadly. Is what I would say.
exactly. It happens, but it doesn't end up deadly. It doesn't lead to something that's fatal. But then you have rap music and rap genres. You see, a lot of people, when we think about rap music, we think about the two greatest icons of rap. Tupac Shakur, Biggie Smalls, right?
Mm-hmm.
King, and they were called Biggie Smalls, excuse me, the king of the East Coast, and Tupac, the king of the West Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting enough, growing up during rap music, these were the two influencers, the biggest influencers in rap and in hip hop. But do you know that what caused the beef that was going on between them two was actually because the magazines at the time, Source magazines, Vibe magazines at the time, were pushing the East Coast versus West Coast beef, right? And quote unquote, there was an incident where Tupac went to a New York studio to record a session with Biggie Smalls. But in the lobby, I believe he was in the lobby, he was about to enter the elevator. He ended up getting robbed and gunned down, and so he thought that it was Biggie Smalls and his crew that was behind that. But that led to a whole beef between East Coast and West Coast rap. It was so bad in the 90, I believe it was either the 94 Hip Hop Source Awards, where they even had to be separated, where security guards had to keep their eyes on Tupac and his crews and Biggie Small and his crew because of how violent it was getting, right? Even to the point where I believe Tupac made a song called "Hit 'Em Up," and that song heightened the beef between those two. And you would think that the death that it led to the death of two great rap icons, and you would think that something as tragic as that would put an end to it, but it doesn't, right? Now, here's one of my theories that I believe that rap is associated with violence. Now, the interesting thing is when you do the research, there's not much research where you could look at, and in hardcore they'll say, okay, these are the facts and evidence that there is a direct correlation between the violence in the Black community and rap music, right? There's no really hardcore research that you can correlate or pinpoint with that. But I would say this, right? There's a text, a scripture in the Bible where it says, a soft answer turns away wrath, right? And there's another scripture that says, do not provoke anyone to do evil. The one thing about rap music is that rap music is very provoking. Now, what do I mean by that? Think about this. If I come inside, if I'm inside, or there's a room, right? And I come inside the room and I say, hey, yo, I run this place. I run this joint. You know what I mean? Get up and you make me a sandwich. Hey, here's my car keys. Go park my car. Don't scratch it. You so-and-so, go this, do that. I'm giving orders. Now, let me ask you this question. How do you think the person who was in the room before I got the room, who was running the room, is going to feel?
Insulted,
right? Insulted, because I'm coming with an energy as if I'm the one who's running it, right? Here's another thing with hip hop. A lot of times with hip hop music, rappers rap about a lifestyle, a lot of times that they don't live. They say that they run the streets. Think about it. All these music videos you have to do, you're hanging out with celebrities all day. You don't really have time to be running the streets.
Right.
It's either you're making money in Hollywood or you're making money in the streets. Now think about it. How do you think the guys who are in the streets, who are running the streets, actually feel when they hear that kind of music? You see the thing is, they feel insulted, right? Because think about it. To the common masses and the masses people like me or you, if we listen to rap or whatnot, we'd be like, oh man, this song is. There was an incident with Drake, right? There was a song that Drake came out with, and correct me if I'm wrong. I forgot what year it was, but I'm thinking this was around 2018 or 17, where Drake was singing this song, Running Through the Six with My Woes, right? That's a song, Running Through the Six with My Woes. I forgot how it went. But that song was popular. Everyone loved it. I think it topped the Billboard charts. The song went viral. Of course, anything Drake puts out, this generation, they love it, right? But guess who didn't love it? The people who are actually in the six. There were people in the streets of Toronto saying, we never seen Drake out there in the six. Drake don't even know where the six is. We don't ever see Drake in the six. In the six. I think there was a Twitter issue there, right?
Right. I feel like.
So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, so when these rappers go out and they encounter everyday people, or encounter guys who are running the streets, or they actually encounter guys who are actually living the lifestyle that they rap about, those guys look like, yo, this is my opportunity to see what you are about, right? They're not gonna look at you. They don't care about how many Grammys you won. They don't care if you are on the BET Awards, the Source Awards, the Soul Trains. They don't care about that. I'm like, hey, growing up in my neighborhood, right? If you had beef with someone, you had beef with someone. They could be the principal's son, the president's son. Doesn't matter who it is. Beef is beef at the end of the day, right? So a lot of these guys who are actually in, they feel provoked by the music, and so when Drake comes around, or these rappers come around in the street in LA, these guys gonna look at them like they think they run place around here. You run things around here, and they're like, no, it's not sweet around here, right? And then it resorts to something where resorts to something violent, and it's unfortunate. You see these things happen with Nipsey Hussle, right? See, rappers have this issue where they always like to do that. Here's one that I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing when you can make it out of where you came from and you're able to go back and give back to your community. That's a beautiful thing. I think that's everyone's dream. That's one of my dreams. If I ever make it to the top or whatnot, if I ever become rich or well off, it would be a pleasure and an honor for me to come back from my humble beginnings and show the people what they can accomplish, right?
Right.
But here's the one thing. Rappers, the hood is not a place for homecoming.
Mm.
It's not. It is not a place for homecoming. Because here's the thing. Not everybody's going to be happy with you coming back home. And here's also the thing, too, as well, too. When you're coming back home to the hood, right? These guys, when they see you, now think about it. Even when you're in the neighborhood, you have beef in your own neighborhood. Even when you're home, you have beef at home. So when you're coming back, you're only coming back to more enemies that you had than when you left. And what the crazy thing is, anytime you see a lot of these rappers that get killed, guess who they get killed by? Or who's related to it? A close friend. Young Dolph, with his situation. There was a picture of him at a club there was a picture of him at a party, and they're saying that the gentleman who had shot him was right, and there was a picture of him right behind Young Dolph. Same thing with Nipsey Hussle. He was the gentleman who shot and who killed him as well too, was someone that Nipsey Hussle knew. But guess where these guys died at? They died in their hometown. I mean, Young Dolph died in Memphis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the place that he died at was he went to a cookie shop where he usually goes and gets cookies for his mom. That was a usual area that he goes to. That was like home to him. He goes in there and people see him, it's like home. But there are guys watching him. Mm-hmm.
Two questions, Bintu. So I want to point out
Yeah.
a thing you said. When Drake said
Yes.
running through the cities with my woes. I don't listen to Drake
Exactly.
like that. I don't know how the lyrics go, but it's something like that. When he said that, the
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
that's actually from that area said, "We never seen Drake here." So, do you feel like in hip hop
Exactly.
there's a consensus to be big and bad to demand respect? Do you feel like there's something in hip hop specifically that makes you want to get respect from other people? That way, it'll blow up your career. You'll get more sponsors. Like I feel like do you get that
Hmm.
feeling essentially?
Of course.
So,
Yes.
so
Here's one thing.
I feel like
Hmm.
in hip hop
Hmm.
the thing right now is to say the most outlandish things, the most outrageous things to get the
Of course.
clicks, the views, and they'll
Hmm.
boost up their they'll boost up their streams, and then they'll make more money. So when rappers say
Of
things
course.
like that, should we even like take them serious? How should we go about looking at rappers?
So here's the thing, right? You have to understand how the industry works, the rap industry. I grew up thinking that everybody who was a rapper was a thug and a gangster. That's what I grew up believing.
Mm,
I thought everybody who rap, who says they shoot, they got shooters, they got hitters. I thought they all were about that life. But one thing that I started to learn as I grow up, most of these rappers are actors. Hip hop You see, if the music industry was about putting a bunch of thugs and gangsters in front of the screen, rapping lyrics that they live, there's plenty of them to choose out there. They're not trying to sell you a lifestyle. They're trying to sell you an image associated with it. The hip hop industry does not need thugs or gangsters to promote the thug and gangster lifestyle. They just need someone with the image to push it. For example, one of the best examples, and I mentioned his name before, is Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was no thug. Tupac Shakur was no gangster, right? Matter of fact, I believe in one of his lyrics, I believe in one of his lyrics, he mentioned that he's no killer, right? You know what's interesting? Tupac was no Suge Knight. Suge Knight was a bad man. Suge Knight actually had some cases where I believe Snoop Dogg, there was a story where Snoop Dogg went out with Suge Knight one time, and they were driving into a neighborhood, and I believe it was him, Suge Knight, and a security guard, and there was a guy that Suge Knight had problems with. Bro, they got into a gun battle. The guy died. Snoop Dogg couldn't believe what he saw. Right? Everybody knew Suge Knight was a bad guy. He had so many charges, so many cases. He was known for beating up on rappers, beating up people in the studio. Suge Knight was about that life. Tupac was not that kind of person. Matter of fact, you know, Jada is always talking about Tupac. Before Tupac was a rapper, he was actually in acting school. That's how he knew Jada. He went to high school with Jada Pinkett Smith, and he went to a performing arts school as well too. Here's the interesting thing about Tupac, and Tupac is not necessarily a rapper, like a lyricist like Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls is a rapper because I believe there's a clip of him rapping in Brooklyn, in the streets of Brooklyn, doing a freestyle. So he was a rapper. Tupac was more of a poet, right? He was more of a poet, and you could tell he was more of a lover guy as well too. But the thing about Tupac was that he could sell an image. He was really good at selling the thug life image. He had the thug life tattoo. I believe he was going to start some sort of a clothing line of thug life and everything like that. He sold the image very well. But Tupac himself was no thug. There was a interview with one of the rappers that Tupac used to rap with. I believe it was the Outlaws, one of the Outlaws, and his name was YG Shock. And he said that whenever he would go to the parties with Tupac, he would always have to bail Tupac out. Because every time he goes to the party, remember what I said, when you go into a place, right, and there are actual thugs and gangsters out there, how are they going to feel? They're going to feel some type of way. So anytime Tupac will go to a club or a party, there would be an incident where Tupac will get into an argument. Now I'll say this one thing. I wouldn't say that Tupac was the type of person to back down. He wasn't the type. I don't mean that he wasn't a thug in the sense that he wasn't going to hold his own or back down. But what I'm saying is that originally he wasn't groomed that way. But there was one incident that YG Shock mentioned. He said that Tupac got into an incident with one guy where they were going back and forth and they were arguing, even to a point where there were a bunch of guys surrounding them, right? And Tupac was just cussing, saying, "You don't know me, you don't know where I'm from, this and that, I'll do this, this and that." And YG Shock's like, "Yo, Tupac, let's just go. Let's just get out," right? You know what that tells me something? They have this saying in the streets. What they say is saying, where they say real G's, right, move in silence. Let me tell you something. Growing up, the scariest guys to mess with were the ones who rarely said anything. The guys who don't say anything, that's the one you should be afraid of. You see all the time in school. The guys who got the loudest mouth, the biggest mouth, who knows who have all the words to say, they're the least to worry about. They're the least of your worries. But the guys who, You talk trash to them, they say, okay, all right. They be like, bro, you ain't gonna see nothing, bro? No. Don't leave it. And then boom, next thing you know, after school, that guy ends up beating up the person or whatever the case is. That's what ends up happening, is that you actually have an incident where the people who are trying to promote themselves, who are trying to speak all of these high words, those are the least people that you should be afraid of. It's actually the person who is it's the person who speaks the least that you should be afraid of.
Wow. I think when it comes to hip hop, in summary,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's important. Your
Mm-hmm.
image is important because I know a lot of, I don't know them personally,
Mm-hmm.
but I've heard, I've
Right.
seen a lot of rappers that snitched when they were like 14 years old, and now they
Wow.
lost all their street cred because they snitched at
Mm-hmm.
14 or
Mm-hmm.
13 years old to the police, and it's a stupid thing to
Right.
me. But
Of
then
course.
again, the image that they selling, you
Mm-hmm.
have to uphold it, and I feel like it's sad. It's a sad state we live in, for sure. Um,
It's sad.
Bintu, bro,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta be a regular on my show, bro. You gotta be a regular
Of
for
course.
sure.
Of
Th-
course. I love.
thanks
Hey
again.
man,
Thanks
of
again for
course.
coming on, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Next
Mm-hmm.
topic you gotta come into. The next episode you gotta be there because it's gonna be an interesting one
Of
also.
course.
Appreciate you,
I
bro.
will. I will. Of course, man.
So, in summary, rap music overall, I feel like people grown such an attachment to it that they will not let it go, even though it's doing harm to the community, even though people are dying, even though they hold you to a ridiculous standard of not snitching and so much more. Um, I think rap music is okay. I think it just makes you feel good. I don't look at it as a staple in the community. Like, who cares? But like I said, I had promised you guys a conspiracy at the end of the video. So I'm gonna show you guys I promised you guys a conspiracy at the end of the show. So this is a new segment. It's called the Dave Conspiracy Theories. Hope you enjoy.
Dave's Conspiracy Theories.
Look, before I begin, this is a conspiracy theory. Do not come for me in the comment section, cause I will block you. Do not take this to be facts. I will leave a link in the description below where I got this information from. You guys can check it out yourself. And with that being said, let's continue. So, the word on the street is that the NFL is covering up a murder of Damar Hamlin by having a body double at the recent event.
But at one point, he was even up on the big screen, seen through the window, pumping up his team and showing the crowd a little bit of love.
As you may already been aware, Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field at a game and suffered from cardiac arrest where he had to be resuscitated. His collapse led to several discussions on social media about football safety. People were even asking to ban football or create policies to make football safer. But honestly, that's a story within itself. Now, after Damar Hamlin was brought to the hospital, it was reported that he was recovering and was released from the hospital January 9th, 2023. But 2 weeks later, a ghost showed up at the Buffalo Bills game.
And before the game, Hamlin was seen in an enclosed golf cart and was escorted directly to the Bills locker room in Buffalo. Hamlin was joined by his mother and his younger brother there. In fact, they all watched the game from a private suite, but at one point, he was even up on the big screen, seen through the window, pumping up his team and showing the crowd a little bit of love.
He was wearing a cap and a mask and also showcasing a heart symbol to the Buffalo Bills fan. And that's when the internet went crazy. Some people were saying, yo, this is not Damar Hamlin, that this was a body double planted by the NFL to keep fans from asking what really happened on that field. Till this day, at the time of this recording, Damar Hamlin has yet to make a full face appearance. What's your opinion on this? Does the fans have a point? Should people be concerned? Or is this just another conspiracy theory?
Hope you guys enjoyed that. But yeah, man, that's a new thing I'm doing. It's 2 segments. It's Dave conspiracy theories and what's really make my balls itch. Those 2 segments we're gonna have on the show, and we're definitely gonna have Bintu on as a staple of this show also, because I like his commentary. So that's all I have for you guys, and thank you for joining the show.